Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is The Blacklist. I am one of your hosts, number 23 on the list, Jacqueline Grosky, and with me is...
Number 13, Melissa Maxey.
This is exciting because we're here to talk about the finale.
Yes!
Tom Connolly, number 11 on The Blacklist. Not to be confused with number 1 on the FBI's most wanted list, Red Reddington. So...
I don't even know where to begin with this episode. There was so much stuff that happened.
Well, let's begin at the end of the last episode. It was episode 21, where we see Keen on the phone with Red, and it looks like she's been set up for the murder or the attempted murder of Senator Hawkins, right?
That's correct.
So they start off this episode with her, and she's talking to Red and said, hey, I can do this. I can clear my name. I'm not going to run. I'm going to stand and fight. And Red's trying to talk her out of it. And
not doing a very good job.
No.
Because she's stubborn and she's going to do what she wants.
Because she's Liz. She is.
So what turns her around is she hears Connolly come storming in with all of his people and gets right in Cooper's face and says, "Where's Liz?" and proceeds to blackmail him.
Yeah.
And Liz overhears it. So the next thing you see is her racing to get into the elevator, calling Red back, going, "I made a mistake! Pick me up!"
Oh, and what a great meeting between Cooper and Connolly that was. He took his pills for
Spilled them all over
and said, "I don't want to live if this is the way it's going to be." And man, that's integrity. He might have slipped once, but he's not going to do it again. And
he's been used too many times.
Yeah. So then we go over to the site where the whole attempt happened, and they have Samar and Wrestler, and they've blood tested everybody. People are getting angry and frustrated, and they've gotten everybody there. Except
they don't even know. Yeah, and Wrestler's the one. Who's the one person that contact with him that we haven't tested? And he looks right at the monitor and he's, "Oh my God, it's Liz. We haven't tested her." And everyone's like, "Oh crap."
Yeah, they've cleared everybody, and there's a lot of people there. And so, yeah, that's the one thing. So, we start to know, okay, they've set Liz up. And that's the thing, is when I saw the senator get sick, and the first thing I thought was Andropov never actually, or not Andropov, Andropov was the scientist. What was the, Karakurt? There we go. So Karakurt is in line, ready to shake the senator's hand. She dives, they grab him. And I thought, he never touched the senator. And so it had to...
No, Liz grabbed him.
Liz grabbed him. So that's when it had to be Liz. Sure enough, the Cabal has set Liz up as a rogue agent.
When she's in the elevator, Connolly and his team catch up with her and put her in an interrogation room, and so they start interrogating her about who she is and about her mom and how her mom was a Russian spy and how her real name is really Masha, and
they knew
she's a double agent, and how her fingerprints were all over the bomb, and they're like all this stuff, and she's just like, oh my gosh, she's like, she thought it was worse before when she was listening to Connolly and Cooper, and now she's just like, oh my God, I'm never getting out of here.
Yeah, and I thought it was a little too easy that they knew that she didn't really know her real birthday. I was like, really? I mean, if that's the case, isn't that kind of proof that you were a kid and didn't know what was going on? I thought that was going a little too deep, but they do. They have her number. They've set her up for this. All they got to do is do the test. And she's trying to bark orders like, I want a chain of evidence and blah, blah, blah. And
they're like, you don't have anything to say at this point.
Right.
You can't tell us what to do.
And Red was right. Red said, they own you. It's already
Red is
done.
Always right.
Red is always right. That's why he's Red Reddington.
So Cooper meets up with Reddington, and I love these sequences where Reddington and Cooper are talking about what's going to happen with Liz, and how as they're talking about what's going to happen, it's actually happening in front of us. So it's like they're talking over the scenes as it's rolling forward about how much time he's going to have to get all the power down and locations of where they're going to pick her up and all this stuff going on. And it's just who they have on the inside. And
yeah, they've set up this exit plan. And yeah, Red had an agent which she tried to knock out. Well, she kind of woke up. She was in full agent mode there. She took out, the one guy and almost took out the other guy. And he's just, stop. I'm giving you a burner. Talk on it.
Yeah, he's like, I got a phone and Red's on it.
But it did well for him because the other guy was knocked out and it looked like he got attacked. So he was actually able to stay undercover.
Yeah.
Red's inside man never really got discovered because, he had some attack marks and all was happy. But our buddy Wrestler figures out that this is Red's plan, so he goes right to the exit point, which was...
him and Liz meet up. That was a really good scene because we know that Wrestler really likes Liz, likes being her partner, likes her as a person.
And he has to know that these people, when they set her up, she's not going to be able to fight it from inside. And that's what he was trying to get her to do is, look, go ahead and come on in and we'll fight this from the inside. But
she's like, do you get my blood test back? And you could see the look on his face at that point. And she's like, you have 30 seconds to let me go before that camera turns back on.
So he makes the quick decision. She takes off. The cameras turn on, and he's just bending down to pick up. She had a burner. He found it. It was too late. I couldn't get to her. And it's so funny. It seems like during all this, Red seems to have plugged into everything. Anytime something
he knows
happens,
everything that's going on.
Yeah, she'll mention, this happened. Yes, I know.
Yeah, he already has upfront information.
Dembe has already briefed me.
I like the quote he said, you're already in their hands. The only thing they haven't done is close their fist. That's true.
That's a great quote. And so now they've got, they get off site and Liz and Cooper and Reddington are now meeting to try and figure out at what point Liz got infected. And so they come up with, and we talked about this, that little bump at the train station.
Yes.
And
we knew something happened there. We just couldn't figure out, when we were talking, we couldn't figure out how he administered it.
Right, because I figured it was some sort of shot in with the bump she just didn't notice, but that would have left a mark. It was like one of these like e-cigarette vapor.
Yeah, they aerosoled it.
So she's got to go and get the tape. And they glossed over that little part, I thought, convincingly, where she goes in and the guy kind of hesitates, but Cooper has a friend kind of high up that calls the security guard and says, there's going to be an FBI agent that's looking for tapes. Help her out, even though she doesn't have a subpoena.
And her face is all over the TV. She's trying to distract him from seeing her face plastered on there that she's wanted.
Right. And so they go through the tapes. She figures out it's not Karakurt, it's Andropov, Leo.
Yes.
And he's the one, so now she's got to go chase him. About that time, the guard actually sees Elizabeth Keene's wanted picture.
Yeah, now she's racing out to the car to Cooper.
And he's like, what? I thought that was great. Just missing the ID there. That was kind of fun.
And Cooper tells her he can't go on anymore with her and help her anymore because his wife's been arrested.
Right. Connolly's going after everybody. And we'll talk a little about that later, but now we go back to Tom, our favorite Tom Keene.
Yeah, because Liz goes to Reddington, and Reddington's on the phone with Tom, and Tom's, I'm looking for Liz, I need to see her, and I can help her get out of the country, and Red hangs up the phone, and Liz is, who is that? And he's like, well, that was just Tom. He wants to take you out of the country and do all these things, and he tells her, he's like, you need to stand up for this right now. He's like, you need to take care of this while we're here. If you run off, they're going to chase you everywhere.
Right. She's got to stand.
And she's like,
she's got to stand and fight it. That's the best strategy, and that's what they're shooting for. I thought it was really interesting where Cooper and Liz are now sitting in the car, and he goes through this like big apology, and I didn't the trust and blah 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 that I had earned, and she's just like, oh, for real, you were in this. Thought you were dying, and his wife was they were all trying to keep her alive and had no idea. But the best quote is, what little time I have left here, I don't want to spend blubbering with you.
And she was totally blubbering at that point. I was too. I was like, I was watching it and I was just choked up from their conversation because she's bawling her eyes out and he's just trying to get out how much he appreciates her and how much he doesn't want to see her turn into something that they think that she is. and for her to keep true to herself. And yeah, that was a really good scene between them.
So Liz has the information about how she was infected. And right.
He also knows information about her mother. So she tells Reddington that she's, he tells her he's a sin eater, and he takes what darkness people have in their lives and takes it upon himself. And she's, well, I'm going to take this that I have about this doctor, and I'm going to go figure it out myself.
Well, and don't forget, she says, what possible sin of mine could you have eaten? Because that's huge later on.
That's huge.
And so she goes to get this information, she goes to see Antov Venov.
Mm-hmm.
And when she sees him, she's like, I don't know anything about Katerina.
Yeah, he tells her he never met her. He never knew her.
Right. And she said, I'm not looking for her, but if you have information. No. But he does tell her where Leo Andropov is. He won't give up the other info because Red is already paying him not to share any information about her mother.
Mm-hmm.
And so she does get she gets a safe house from him, and then after
she goes straight to Tom.
Yes. Oh, but before she goes straight to Tom, what did we have? This is a little quiz.
Oh, are you talking about the Mustang commercial?
Yes. I thought of you as soon as I saw the Mustang commercial. I thought, oh, there it is.
Yeah, we'll talk about that Mustang here in a few minutes because
it takes a beating.
Yeah, it does. So when Liz shows up, Liz is at the boat for Tom, and so when he shows up at his boat, he knows somebody's on there, and he goes down with his gun drawn, and she's like, I got information. She's like, I need your help. I need you to help me. She goes, I need backup. And so they go to that place.
I was going to say, did you notice the little burn mark on his neck?
How his tattoo's missing?
Yes.
How he had totally removed it?
Yep. All his marks are gone. He's ready to disappear. So
I'm curious about the name of his boat, Jenny 2, right?
Yeah, I wonder if that's like some sort of weird reference to Forrest Gump or something.
I don't know. Maybe.
Like he's starting a new life and...
Well, there was another weird reference that I forgot to mention about when she was in interrogation and they took her blood. And they put that weird Band-Aid on her that has a big smiley face on it.
Yeah.
And it reminded me of The Mentalist with Red John. I was like, that's the weirdest Band-Aid I've ever seen. It could have been like, I don't know, Hello Kitty.
I thought it was kind of fun. If they were smart, they would have put some sort of tracking thing on there. That would have been fun.
They're not that smart.
No. So Tom says, I can't stay. He's really trying to get her to go with her, but she needs help to get on drop-off, and she can't do it by herself. So they've got an address, and so they go storm the and drop-off safe house.
I think they make a great partnership.
They do.
They know each other's, they just know each other so well that they can...
Sound like a married couple?
I mean, they sound like a married couple, but they also are highly trained, So it was like when they were going through that building and he went in first and he was checking all the rooms and he found the guy going out the window and he yells back, he's on the street, and she goes running down. And then I saw the Mustang and I was like, oh yes. And they both got in the Mustang.
Right. So
and that funny comment about how she was teasing him about the blood on the windshield. She's like, I didn't run over a deer on the bridge and so, and he's like, honey, that was a deer blood on the windshield.
It was like a domestic argument, like a banter.
In the middle of a car chase.
Except it's like from like two secret agents. She's on a task force and he's like a super double agent.
And they're talking about the weather.
Right, they're talking about like some
hoof prints on the windshield.
Right, that was great. And let's see. So
at the end of the car chase, they confront because he's running. Or his car he gets out of his car and starts running, and another car shows up that was trying to intercept him.
Right.
And instead of intercepting him, they kill him.
Right. He had gotten on his phone and say, you need to get me, I've been made, get me at the extraction point. And when they get to the extraction point, they're not going to take him.
Yeah, no, he's a goner. And Liz is so upset. She's got herself wrapped all over his body trying to keep him from dying because he has the last information about, he was the one that knew about her mother.
Yeah, and really she should have been concerned about the fact that he's the one that could have cleared her name.
Yeah.
But, in that emotional response, the thing that wasn't most important to her, which should have been, the most important thing is he's the only one that knew my mother, which really isn't true.
No.
We know.
No, yeah.
Antov Venov, even though he won't say anything about it, actually knew her mom and had information. And Red knew her mom, so I thought it was quite funny that
was what she focused on.
Right. And I guess that he was the only guy that probably would have been willing to say what was going on with her mother. And, it wouldn't have been such a fight. But yeah, that was very telling. That's like some psychological Gestalt or Freud or I'm sure there's some like psychology.
Well, I'm sure there's some psychology about what happened when Liz and Tom got back to the boat too, because that was messed up.
Yeah, I think
everyone
that was
all
Freudian.
happy they got together, but I was like, oh my gosh, this is a bad idea.
I think that might be something we might have to talk about. So, Melissa, why do you have these feelings?
Everybody wants
Freudian?
Liz and Tom to be together. But I'm like, it's a bad idea because really,
he's a bad boy?
He's still playing her. He is. I mean, he may have an ulterior motive that they're not showing us on the show that they're going to show us next season.
Were you not one of the 50 billion people that read 50 Shades of Grey?
I never read that book.
It should have been 50 Shades of Tom. I never read the book, but the whole premise is...
You know what, though?
It's literotica. It's what girls from the dawn of time do and say that they don't, but they do. It's why this movie has made $1 billion, is because Tom is Tom and Liz is a normal American girl.
Let me tell you what I saw the movie. But let me tell you a little bit about the correlation that I think between Tom and Liz and the 50 Shades of Grey book. The girl is the manipulator, not the guy. So that actually kind of fits in this instance because Liz definitely was manipulating him in that moment to help herself feel better.
Well,
she knows she doesn't want to be with Tom. She knows she doesn't.
But she had she knows she does. She's there. She doesn't, what did she say? I don't want to regret saying yes.
I don't want to have no regrets.
Right. So did that mean she didn't want to regret saying yes, or she did not want to? And the thing
Seems
is,
like a goodbye thing to me.
Tom is all she had to do to get rid of Tom is say, no, I need to get on with my life and go. But
that didn't happen because she'd already done that.
Right. Well, she's already back. And so maybe she's the one playing Tom.
Maybe.
It's like Christian Grey. What was the quote I heard? I'm 50 shades of bleeped up. And he's, it makes it seem like the woman is the manipulator, but he's the one that's making himself vulnerable. And that's what Tom is the vulnerable, poor man, a victim of circumstance. And he's the bad boy that she shouldn't be with. And that's the literotica part of this.
And the second Reddington calls her, she drops him like a stone.
Mm-hmm. Well, Daddy Dearest is...
Ma'am, thank you, ma'am.
But it's not because of any romantic thing. It's no. Daddy's calling. I'll get in trouble. It's not.
No, didn't have anything to do with that.
Mm-hmm. I think he's the voice. Even though he's the nation's number one most wanted, Red is the voice of reason. She knows Tom is bad, and he reminds her of that. And she comes to her senses momentarily, but it didn't help. They're still back at the end. It's literotica. It's that bad boy thing, and they have this chemistry. They were a couple very much in love, even though the whole situation was contrived and made up. he really had feelings for her, and she didn't know.
Well,
she didn't know it, but she always knew that she had real feelings for him.
Yeah, but it's comfortable. It's
It is.
comfortable for her. She can just fall back into it, but it's not something that she wants. Not at this point.
I don't know. I think we'll see what happens with when we get back next season, because there's two ways to do it. Either she goes to Tom and kind of hides out for quite a while. It doesn't really end that way. He goes off into the sunset on the Jenny 2.
Well, let's just talk about what happens next, because this is the point where the call is what gets Liz out to see Connolly.
Oh, right.
Right? And Cooper and Connolly, and they meet up.
Yeah.
And Cooper confronts Connolly about all the stuff that he's done. And in the meantime, Reddington is meeting with the highest levels of journalism. He's secured a room off. He had Mr. Kaplan make sure it was no technology could get through it. And he's meeting with them, telling them about the fulcrum.
He didn't have a meeting. He kidnapped 11 of the nation's top investigative journalists.
Well, that's kind of a meeting. I mean, it's Red style, but still.
all these bodyguards pull up in limos
in the background.
They grab him by the arm and put their head as they shove them back into the limo, and Red Reddington sends his greetings and sends them on their way. But yeah, they get the full blast, and the meeting was great. He says these are the leaders of the secret government that's been going on the last 30 years. And the moment that you start to do something with this, you are going to be the enemy. We won't all live to see this come out, but the truth will out. And I thought that was a great line. The truth will out. From Chicago, San Francisco, all over the country. So speaking of the boat, they go back to Liz. And after the firefight, and that's when he's pulling the glass and out of her skin and gently blowing on her shoulder where the wound is.
Yeah, we talked about this part. You just want to talk about it.
Well, this goes back. Well, this is afterwards, and this before this was the setup, because she had. Oh, I forgot she had the thumb drive. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But after the meeting, she's sitting there with Tom and says, "I'm just saying to myself, why didn't you just get on that boat?"
And I rolled my eyes.
And then they go right to the steamy love scene.
Oh.
And it's crazy. They get right up into her face. And man, I tell you, she's got some great pores, because there's not a lot of actresses that you can get that close and go, ew.
Megan Boone is very beautiful.
She
is very, very beautiful.
She must have a good esthetician or just good genetics or something.
She's very beautiful.
So that's when she drops the line, "I don't want to regret anything." And it's like, what don't you want to regret, Liz? Not saying yes.
Oh, God.
And then dumb Tom goes, "Say yes to what?" It says, "To you." And then just silence. It was like, "What do you want, Liz?"
It was way more sexy than that.
I know, but in my mind, it was not going as well, just because he was asking
like a Daniel Steele novel.
Oh man! So she's putting on the flannel shirt after Nookie scene, and she finds the little blue thumb drive, and I was like,
And this is what was interesting at that point, because she was just getting ready to put that on, right? So the next scene, it shows her in a black t-shirt holding the flannel shirt, and she tosses it onto the table.
Right,
like it's a rag.
Well, I think you're projecting.
Tom.
I think you're projecting onto it, but yes, I think that was a little hint that she's not back in a married mode anymore. I don't need to wear his flannel shirt. Although I think she would have looked good in it. It's like, seeing a girl in a football jersey.
So after she looks at it, what was funny is she pulls his gun from underneath the table that he'd put under there, and she is just getting ready to leave when he walks in. What did he say? Is that a gun? Are you to see me?
Yeah. That's the old that's an old phallic line. It says, But yeah,
it's supposed to be the other way around. So somehow he became the female.
I don't know. He's still pretty dominant. The fact that she's grabbing the gun that's attached to under his table and he's still joking about it. He's pretty confident that she's not there to shoot him anymore. I said that's that's cocky.
This is when she's like, I'll be back. And he's, yeah, no, you won't. And I'm like, yeah, she's not coming back. That's not happening.
So let's talk about what they find on the drive. It's a bunch of paperwork from Andropov.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing she sees that pops up is all this paperwork on Cooper and all the other testing stuff. And so, wait a minute. And it's all this paperwork that basically says that there's nothing wrong with Cooper.
Yeah, he's been well this whole time.
And so she forwards this information, and the next thing you do is Cooper storming this doctor's office, grabbing him by the throat and lifting him up into the window, trying to choke the life out of him.
He should have.
And, what did you do? You made me think I was getting better. He says, no. He's trying to grasp for air at the same time. So no, I made you seem like you were sick. It's like, what do you mean? No, the drugs that I gave you. He says, but I needed a cane. He says, Andropov had designed all that, drugs that mimic the symptoms of what he had. And so as they lowered the dosage, it seemed like he was getting better. So they could control how sick he got based on
medicine that he gave him.
Right. And, so the whole thing, he's not in danger of dying. He's not going to need the cane. And Cooper's going to live a long, long time unless he goes to prison for all this.
So they find out that Connolly was involved in that. So that's where they head next.
Yes.
And the confrontation with Connolly, Cooper's the one that comes up on him first and says all the things they know about him, all the things that they're going to put him away. And he's like, Connolly's like, you can't even touch me. He's like, I've got so much information about what you did covering up Liz's crime and your wife. He's like, I've got so much information to use against you that you can't even touch me.
Right.
And Liz comes up and she has her gun drawn. And it's Tom's gun. Let's get that clear.
I wonder if that's going to come up later.
Yes. I think it will, because Tom's gun was the one used to kill that guy on the boat.
Because all they need to do is say, well, it wasn't, because there was nobody there that saw it, really.
Mm-mm.
It was only the statement, and they could have, I wonder if they'll kind of go for that and say, yes, it was Tom's. Yes, her prints were on the gun, but it was Tom Keene's gun. They make him disappear, and they put it all on him. Yeah, it's something to say for later. We can say, you called it first.
Yeah, we talked about it first.
I like the way Connolly says, you've got a lot of chutzpah. We've got a lot of chutzpah. And she said, we've got more than that.
Uh-huh.
And she starts, you are going to listen to what we have to say. This is how it's going down. And he doesn't buy it. And man, he fights back hard. He says, you're going to prison. Red is going to be given the death penalty. Samar Navabi is going back to Iran for trial for killing one of their top scientists. Wrestler, he'll be drummed out of the FBI for his little oxy addiction.
Yeah.
And Charlene has already been detained for leaking secret government documents.
And at this point, Cooper is looking at Liz and can see how she's totally digressing. Like, he knows at this point she has her gun trained on Connolly, and he's trying to talk her down. He's like, Liz, he's like, remember that conversation I had with you about not doing what they are, becoming what they think you are? And he's trying to talk her down from doing, because she's at this point, she's totally blocked out what she's not even hearing him.
But she's got that 1,000-yard stare. She's not even listening to him. She's completely zoned out, almost shaking. We don't really know what's going on, but she just squeezes the trigger and gets him dead in the heart.
And at the same moment has a flashback to the time during the fire, and it shows her holding a weapon.
Right.
As a child.
And so you can see her parents are fighting. Her dad is hurting her mom. And you see this weapon kind of fly out. She grabs it and she
shoots him.
She couldn't take it, and blam. And so she tells Red, I know. I remember it all. And, so that, that's the reason that he's been hiding all this is not for his own sake, but to protect her.
Yeah, and he wiped her memory so she wouldn't remember that incident where she killed her own father.
Right. So I also did like right after the shot, it's just her and Cooper, and Cooper's just, he's speechless. It's not even like, what did you do or blah, blah, blah. It's like 3 seconds of silence that seemed like minutes. And he just says, run.
Run, Lizzie, run.
And then they go back to her as a little girl, and you hear the scream,
running down the hallway.
The hallway, and then you see the fire, and man, it was intense.
That was an amazing part of the episode where they correlated the fire between the shooting of Connolly. It was a great correlation and a great way for her to remember all the things that she had forgotten. And then for her to meet up with Red, Red meets her immediately, and he hugs Dembe like he's never going to see him again.
Right.
Like they embrace, they're bawling their eyes out because Red knows he has to take Lizzie and they have to run for their lives at this point.
Oh, yeah.
And he's going to go with her.
Well, she just shot the Attorney General of the United States of America. Like, we know that Tom Connolly was a bad egg, but the rest of the country doesn't know it, and that's huge. I mean, that's way up into, you're talking into presidential succession. The Attorney General is, if anything happens to the president, the vice president, and such and so on, this is one of the biggest offices in the land. And so, she becomes just like Red. She's now on the FBI's most wanted list. The senator's dead. They kind of pin that on her, but this is huge because they didn't pin it. She actually did it. So I like she goes back and she's on the run and she sees a little mom pushing a baby carriage, and she does a little spin move and grabs the iPhone and calls Wrestler and he's like, "What are you doing? You need to come in." It's like, not going to happen.
Yeah, that's what happened.
And so the next call is she calls Red and you've got to come pick me up. And so
the final song of the episode was Rocket Man, and I want to quote this because I've been reading off Spoiler TV, and he talked about the song, and it's Gon is the author, and he says the song Rocket Man is said to be based on a short story by Ray Bradbury titled Rocket Man. The story is about an astronaut who travels into space for 3 months at a time and comes back to Earth to visit with his wife and son. He wants to quit to spend more time with his family. Despite making several attempts to quit, staying at home with his family and his constant absence have nearly destroyed his relationship with his wife. Before leaving for another 3-month period, which the father intended to be his last mission as the Rocket Man, the father makes Doug, his son, promise he will never follow in his father's footsteps. And that is exactly the correlation with Reddington and Liz, is that he did not want her to follow in his footsteps. He says that to her several times. Yeah. And that's why he was protecting her.
And, she says right up, that's, "You are my sin eater." Now she knows he was trying to protect her. And that was the thing, this whole last 2 seasons have been all about Red trying to protect himself. It's all about Red and what he's doing. And she finally figures out it's always been about her and protecting her. And she starts to cry and I had this image of her sitting on that bench and the car pulling up, and she had her hands in her pocket. She looked like a 13-year-old girl waiting for, her parents.
Bus ride.
A bus ride. Yes. And she'd gotten in trouble at school, or, somebody stole her lunch money and daddy's coming and gonna make it all better. And even when they're driving away, she gently puts his head on his shoulder, and just the look almost of peace or satisfaction on Red's face. She finally gets it.
That's right.
And then they go to the most wanted board at the station, and there's a space right next to Red Reddington on the most wanted list. And they put a picture of Liz right next to Red's. She has become
the next most wanted.
The next most wanted.
Yeah, and the wrestler posting her picture on the board, he's slow. He had a really hard time doing that. You could just see how much that really pained him to have to put her picture. And as he looked back to Samar and Amar, the team that he has now to go after their teammate, their partner,
right.
Aram, this is going to be an interesting...
Well, the thing about Aram I thought was interesting is the Connolly had mentioned yeah, we even have something for him too. But they never said what it was. And I wonder if they just didn't want to, it was like an et cetera moment, or are we going to find out something deep
Maybe
and dark?
we'll find out something about him.
Yeah, I think they have a little plan for later. It's not going to come to pass, but it gives us a little story for later on. And they have, if you look at the website, it has main video, photos about, and Aram's notes.
Yeah.
And so they're kind of exploring the whole IT thing. And he's even got his own little section. So I think they're going to do something with that.
They could. He's in a perfect position to know, because he knows everything about everyone.
Yeah.
He gets information really easily. He could have his own special black book of information. And if he's even working for them, or he could be working for someone else, they could take it any way. They could do anything with that.
So then they flash out. Cooper is sitting in the office. He's turned in his badge. Although we know
they walked him out.
They did.
Like he was in the office and they were walking him out. So they were either arresting him or taking him in for questioning, maybe about what happened with Liz.
Yeah,
and Cooper Connolly.
He was relieved, but with Connolly, they don't know why he was relieved. They don't have any information. So I thought it was kind of interesting. I guess they're blaming that he was there, but they don't know. But yeah, he turns his badge in and they escort him out of the building. And it seems like they're letting him go, but I'm sure there'll be some sort of investigation because all eyes are on Liz for that. They're not on him. And then the newspaper, the director of the Cabal opens up the morning's newspaper, and it has a whole thing about how the documents indicate existence of a shadow government, and his eyes
turns white.
Yeah. And Congress has already, been notified. So yeah, that he might want to do something to that reporter, but now it's all out in the open and in Congress. If something does happen to the reporter, it'll just attract more attention. So now
because all those other reporters have the information too.
So now the truth is out, or the truth will out, and it is out. And Tom pulls his boat out, and he's going away by himself into the sunset. And then they end it there. They end it there. Red and Liz in the limo. We're talking about the little shoulder scene. And man, it was just, I don't know if you could have tied all the questions, all the things up in the air. Everything was tied together, and the season has ended with, the Connolly being shot and Liz on the run. And now Liz is considered almost on par, if not on par with Red as far as being wanted. The whole country is going to be after her.
Yeah, so now for the next season, we have questions about her mother. We have Tom is out in the fray, which means he's not gone. And Reddington he's going to have to change his game plan at this point if he's going to have to protect Liz even more than he was before. And then what happens with all the information that was outed? I mean, what's going to happen? Is it going to start wars? Are they going to start collecting more people? Are people going to be coming out of the woodwork? It'll be interesting to see what they do for the season premiere.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be a lot of good material. On top of it, you still have the blacklist. And what's going to be the state of that? Is that, are they going to keep doing that? Because right now, the whole thing seemed kind of based on the fulcrum and what happened at the house, but we don't know everything that happened at the house.
Well, and Reddington was in charge of the list. He was the one giving them the names. So if he's not there and if he's with Liz and he's not part of the task force like he was before, they're not going to be getting any blacklist names unless they can bring him back in.
Or they'll be making phone calls just like from, wherever they're hiding out and say, yeah, you might want to take a look at this guy. That's a really good
15 countries.
Right. That's a really good point is how does the blacklist be the blacklist without the blacklist?
That's a good question.
I don't know if I could write that out. It's like
I know.
Fuzzy Wuzzy was a bear. Fuzzy Wuzzy had no hair. The blacklist is the blacklist without the blacklist. You could quote me on that.
It's a tongue tie. That's tongue tie.
So, man, it's, I was really excited about this. I thought everything was put together really well. Just a great end to the season. Really looking forward to season 3 in the fall. I think we're planning to have a couple little extras here available, so keep your eye out on that. This will not be our last podcast before fall, so we've hopefully got a couple of interviews and a roundtable, and so we will keep everybody in the loop. Is there anything you want to add?
No, I think that's it.
All right, well, this was the SMG Blacklist Podcast, brought to you by the Southgate Media Group, and you can find them at www.southgatemediagroup.com, where you can click on our podcast, on all blogs and other TV and subject matter podcasts like Cuckoo for Doctor Who and many others. I also do the Trumpet Talk about playing trumpet, and Melissa and I also have one on Michael Connolly's The Bosch episodes on Netflix.
So you can follow us on Twitter at Blacklist Pod, and you can follow us on Instagram at The Blacklist Pod. My Twitter account is MS Maxey, and I'm also co-administrator for the Killing fan group and the Catch fan group, the Catch fans on Twitter.
At J1Grosky. And let's see, what else is there? What were you about to say?
I was going to say we do have the Bosch Pod on Twitter.
Awesome. Twitter and the Facebook page. Don't forget about that too. And
yeah, find us on Facebook under the Blacklist Pod.
Right. That about wraps up the entire season. Until next time.
See you then.
There we go.
That's a lot of editing.
Nah.